I could really talk about this topic of general well-being and physical health for an extended period of time, but I really like some of the previous slides that I'm leaning on towards here, coming into this discussion. So I've just brought on one slide to really illustrate an important point I think about, which is this notion of something called health span. I don't know if I can yell. Something called health span. Something called health span versus this notion called lifespan. And just the epiphany I'm trying to create, I'm taking this graph from someone called Pillay. If you don't know him, I highly recommend you follow him. But it's not his topic, it's just a very good graph. And what we've done brilliantly over time as a practice of medicine and science, and if you look at 2025, where we sit at the moment in this world, there's never been a better time to be alive. All of us are going to live longer than anyone lived before us. All of us. Okay. But the hidden secret is none of us are getting out of here alive. We're all going to die. Okay. The key is we're going to die later than anyone who lived before us died. So lifespan, in terms of how long we live on this planet, is at its optimal point than it's ever been in the history of mankind. People are living longer now than they ever have before. When I was 13, my grandfather died and he was 74 years old. And I thought that was like ancient, you know. My mother's in her early 70s, and I think she's got a few good decades left in her. I really, really do. My grand died 2 years ago. She was 94. My sister-in-law's grand's going to turn 100 this year. And 20, 30 years ago, that was, I mean, I don't know if it really happened, but people get like a letter from the Queen, you know, if you live to 100. That's how uncommon it was in the Grand Commonwealth. So we've done really well at extending lifespan. And as you can see, there's like an extension here. I'm going to talk about it in a second. But what's 100% guaranteed, and I really love that graph about this range of stress and how it kind of arises. I'm going to bring this back into health in a second, physical health. What's guaranteed is if you look at least definitely physical and mental health, maybe not emotionally, but physical and mental health, what's absolutely inevitable is everybody's going to go through some form of decline as they age through life. Everybody. You can be Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, and you're going to go through some form of decline. I didn't get that gene pool, so some of us are on some form of decline as we kind of age through lifespan, and that's this notion called health span, quality. So quality of life. And as best and as well as we've done to extend lifespan, is actually been to the detriment of the quality of life. So we've managed to progress this gradual decline down and pushed out lifespan, time on this earth by a little bit, but at significant compromise to quality of life. How many of you can think of parents or grandparents living in their 80s, their 90s that are incapacitated, living in their bed? I reference my grandmother, and she had 15 years of terrible quality of life. I don't want to play a video because I can't get it to work on my machine. I don't know how to get it to work here. But there's a great video by the Department of Health in Canada. They say the average Canadian is going to live the last 10 years of their life in sickness. The average Canadian, this is a first world country, and the average person is going to live for 10 years in sickness. That means some people are going to live for 20 years in sickness. And you never know when you're going to get into this marginal decade that you're going to be like kept alive for the sake of time, but your quality is going to be so significantly low. And the benefits and what we try to do in the business that we do and the work that we do is we try seriously push out this inevitable decline because it's coming, but you can push it out as much as you can. The thing is you have to start the work when you're younger. And you can bring a lot of those activities that you're trying to do when you're older back into this. It's significantly interacted with mental health. We were talking earlier on in the room how intertwined that is with financial health. If you've got pictures of retirement and you've saved enough money and you're part of the 3% of South Africans, there was the stat, that can retire, if you're part of that 3% and you get there and you can't enjoy it, kind of like defeats the purpose a little bit, you know, to have all the money in the bank but you can't get up and go to the toilet in the middle of the night. Someone has to kind of help you. So if you're working back from that, which is really what most financial work is about, you set a financial goal and you work back from the financial goal. We're trying to say, try set a health goal, a functional goal, a longevity goal, and work back from that longevity goal. So if it is for you, I've got young children and I love playing with them and moving around. So in 30 years' time, when they have kids, or 40 years, I don't know when they're going to have children, if they do. But I've got visions of running with my grandkids and picking them up, and I'm the grandfather playing bats on the beach and bodyboarding with them in the sea. And if I can't do that at a significantly advanced level now in my 40s, to do that when I'm 78 years old is a pipe dream. A pipe dream, right? How many of you see old people on a plane can't put a suitcase in the overhead compartment or push a trolley through the airport? So if you're picturing traveling when you're older, and if you're in your 40s and you can't lift 20 kilos above your head, you are not lifting a suitcase onto an airplane in your 70s. It is not going to happen. You can't wake up there and think you're going to be able to do it if you can't do it now. And so what we try to do, the logic is to try to push this out as much as possible. And I'm simplifying some very complex discussions in the world of medicine. But the idea is to try extend your health and your quality of life as far as you can. So when the decline inevitably comes, it's as rapid as possible. So one last kind of morbid kind of analogy in this discussion is that this notion of this curve, being this gradual curve, as a gradual curve, is a highly romanticized notion. Okay. But before I go into why it's really, really scary, let me just put something in your minds. All of us are somewhere on this curve. And maybe if you just leave with one epiphany from me tonight, is to try to think where you are on this curve. Because I don't know and you don't know. And all of us are somewhere on this curve. Some of you were at 100% 20 years ago, 1 year ago, 5 years ago, and you've gradually gone through a period of decline, and you're somewhere on this curve of decline. Depends where you are. But you're not gradually going to decline as you age. What's going to happen is let me try and get this to work. You're going to go through a series of significant step-down events as you age. I don't have the next graph. I don't think I put another graph. No, I don't have another graph. But I've got a graph that shows the cause of accidental death by decade of life. Cause of accidental death by decade of life. Just a shout out, what do you think the most common cause of accidental death is in over 60-year-old people? Falls. If you fall and you're over 60 years old and you fracture a bone in your neck, like in your hip or your upper leg, there's a 33% chance you won't survive 1 year. If you fall, if you're over 60 and you fracture, worldwide statistic, and you fracture a bone in the hip or the upper part of your leg, so a 33% chance you'll not survive 1 year. And if you do survive 1 year, there's a 70% chance you're not going to be fully functional within 2 years. So that means if you're walking, you're going to be on a crutch. If on a crutch, you're going to be in a wheelchair. If in a wheelchair, you might be bedridden. And you go through these series of significant impairments in your life, be they mental, it could be triggered by a financial situation, could be triggered by a workplace situation. And if you're not at a high level of functionality when that happens, your drop down of functionality is significant and it's drastic. It's like falling off a cliff. And that's what happens with people that fall, and these elderly people, and they've got all these metabolic kind of complications. So I should have maybe had like a good news slide afterwards. Yeah. I'm just thinking about that now. Peter said, send one slide. I said one slide. This is part of a much larger talk I usually kind of give. But the point is that the majorly positive thing is that the one epiphany is that all of us in this room are at some form of decline as we age. And it's important to just try to consider where you are on that point of decline. You want to be significantly advanced relative to your peers. You want to be like a younger version of yourself as you go through age. And be wary that you're going to go through a series of step-down events as you age. This is going to happen. You're going to fall, you're going to have a car accident, there's going to be a mental challenge in your life, be it family, work, stress, whatever else it might be, crime. And we really, the challenge is, you really can be like Chuck Norris. You really can extend this ability to be functional, but you have to work on it now. And mental health is such an important pillar. But the other two very, very important pillars are exercise and nutrition. And if there's one lever you want to pull which affects all of this, it's exercise. Nothing has the impact that exercise has on physical health, mental health, no pharmacological intervention with respect to pharma guys in the room, or no clinical intervention. It has the same effect as solid exercise as you kind of age. So it's a positive message, I hope, and I can clarify it more in the questions as we move along.